Money can't buy happiness, and it certainly can't curb Shylock's desire for human flesh. William Shakespeare was born on April 23, 1564, to a family of little wealth. He also died on the same day in 1616. Scholars question his date of birth. However, records show that Shakespeare was baptized 3 days later on the 26th, which was customary at this time. Young William grew up during the golden age of literary arts. He lived in Stratford-upon-Avon, about 100 miles northwest of London, the focus of English theatre. Shakespeare attended King's New School, in which the curriculum focused on classical education, including topics such as Greek mythology, Roman comedy, and ancient history. Unfortunately, Shakespeare did not attend university due to his father's financial debt. At age 18, he married a woman named Anne Hathaway, who, at the time, happened to be 3 months pregnant with his child, and also 8 years his senior. The couple had 3 children together, Susanna, born in 1583, and twins Hamnet and Judith, born 2 years later. Several years following the birth of his twins are known as his lost years, since there's a gap in the historical record regarding Shakespeare. No need to worry, Shakespeare resurfaced in a pamphlet by Robert Greene in 1592, and between 1590 and 1592, his plays Henry VIII, Richard III, and Comedy of Errors were performed. The inopportune epidemic of 1593, the Black Plague, forced theaters in England to close, but Shakespeare continued writing. During this time, he wrote 2 narrative poems and most likely began writing his notorious sonnets. By 1594, Shakespeare had also written The Taming of the Shrew, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, and Love's Labour's Lost. Shakespeare also joined the Lord Chamberlain's Men in 1594, one of the most admired acting troupes in London at that time. It was this group that established the renowned Globe Theatre. Shakespeare entered a productive stage of his life around 1595 and wrote Richard II, Romeo and Juliet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and, of course, The Merchant of Venice. Severe anti-Semitism is prevalent in Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, as at the time, general intolerance of Jews was a fact of life in Europe. Countless Jews were forced to practice their faith secretly, and some even pretended to convert to Christianity to avoid the cruelty and persecution of everyday life. For instance, charges of ritual sacrifice of Christian children led to the expulsion of Jews from England in 1290. The Jewish community was often portrayed as threatening and nasty, though clearly this was a generalization. Similarly to other plays at the time, Shakespeare portrayed his antagonist, Shylock, as a Jew, but he also portrayed Shylock as human. Many other playwrights would depict Jewish characters as villainous and evil, but Shakespeare thought it would be more interesting to display a different side to his character, though he shows little mercy to Shylock throughout the play. No one knows if Shakespeare was truly anti-Semitic or merely exploring anti-Semitism in his writing. Either way, The Merchant of Venice happened to be a favorite of Nazi Germany, with more than 50 productions of the play performed between the year 1933 and 1939. More recently, some have expressed the desire to change certain parts of Shakespeare's original text in order to make the play seem less anti-Semitic. Regardless of Shakespeare's intentions, many critics believe if he wanted to sympathize with the Jews, he would have done so more explicitly. In the section I will be performing from Act 4, Scene 1 of The Merchant of Venice, Shylock, a stereotypical greedy Jew, aims to collect what is rightfully his, a pound of his enemy Antonio's flesh. The Merchant of Venice opens in Venice, where a man named Antonio is extraordinarily depressed. His friend, Bassanio, asks him for 3,000 ducats so he can travel to Belmont to court a wealthy heiress named Portia. Antonio invested all of his money on his ships throughout the world, but nonetheless decides to help Bassanio with his financial woes. Antonio and Bassanio visit Shylock, a Jewish moneylender, in hopes that he will assist them. Shylock despises Antonio because Antonio has exhibited extreme anti-Semitism towards him in the past, but he still agrees to a short-term loan under one condition. If the loan is not repaid in 3 months, Shylock will demand 1 pound of Antonio's flesh. Antonio is certain that his fleet will return before the 3 months have passed, so they make the deal. Soon after, Lorenzo, a friend of Bassanio, elopes with Shylock's daughter, Jessica, who promises to convert to Christianity. Bassanio then journeys to Belmont, where many suitors have failed to marry Portia. Her father's will states that suitors must choose between 3 boxes, one of which holds a picture of Portia. Bassanio chooses the lead casket, the correct one, and they are married at once. Meanwhile, it is reported that all of Antonio's fleet have shipwrecked. Because of this, he is unable to repay Shylock's loan. Antonio sends a letter to Bassanio about his unfortunate legal predicament, and Bassanio leaves immediately to help Antonio in Venice. Portia and her maid, disguised as a male lawyer and his clerk, secretly follow him to court. Here, Shylock and Bassanio argue over the contract that was made. Shylock's true intentions are revealed, and Antonio all but gives up hope for survival.
I have possessed your grace of what I purpose. By our holy Sabbath I have sworn to have the due and forfeit of my bond. If you deny it, let the danger light upon your character and your city's freedom. You'll ask me why I rather choose to have a weight of carrion flesh than to receive 3,000 ducats. I'll not answer that. But say it is my humor. Is it answered? What if my house be troubled with a rat, and I be pleased to give 10,000 ducats to have it baned? What, are you answered yet? Some men there are love not a gaping pig. Some that are mad if they behold a cat. And others, when the bagpipe sings at the nose, cannot contain their urine. Perfection, mistress of passion, sways it to the mood of what it likes or loathes. Now for your answer. As there is no firm reason to be rendered why he cannot abide a gaping pig, why he, a harmless necessary cat, why he, a woolen bagpipe, but of force must yield to such inevitable shame as to offend, himself being offended. So I can give no reason, nor I will not, more than a lodged hate and a certain loathing, I bear Antonio. That I follow thus, losing suit against him. Answer?
This is no answer, thou unfeeling man, to excuse the current of thy cruelty.
I am not bound to please thee with my answers.
Do all men kill the things they do not love?
Hates any man the thing he would not kill?
Every offense is not a hate at first.
What, wouldst thou have a serpent sting thee twice? I pray you, think you question with the Jew? You may as well go stand upon the beach and bid the main flood bait his usual height. You may as well use question with the wolf why he hath made the ewe bleat for the lamb. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops and to make no noise when they're fretting with the gusts of heaven. You may as well do anything most hard, as to seek to soften that, and much what's harder. It's judge heart. Therefore I do beseech you, make no more offers, use no farther means, but with all brief and plain conveniency, that we have judgment, and you as well.
The infuriated Shylock demands Antonio's flesh, even after being offered 2 and 3 times the original amount of money owed to him from Bassanio. He is seeking revenge on the Christians due to the hardships he has had to face in his lifetime. Portia arrives, disguised and ready to defend Antonio. She agrees that Shylock can have the pound of flesh as long as he doesn't spill a single drop of blood, as it is illegal to shed Christian blood. Obviously, taking the flesh would kill Antonio, so Shylock is put in a tough spot. Moreover, the court decides that Shylock was conspiring to murder Antonio, so Portia requires that Shylock should relinquish his wealth. Half of his fortune is to go to Venice, and Antonio should take the other half. Antonio gives the money back to Shylock under the conditions that he will give it to his daughter Jessica, and that he will become Christian. Shylock dolefully accepts. Fortunately for Antonio, some of his ships safely return to Venice, and all but Shylock celebrate a happy ending. Act 4, Scene 1 of Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice is one of the most important scenes in the entire play. It perfectly captures Shylock's character, flawed and antagonistic. Though his character seeks revenge and compensation, his motives are not far-fetched. Some of his ideas from his famous "Hath not a Jew eyes" speech in Act 3, Scene 1 can also be seen in this scene. Shylock believes that all people should be considered equal, no matter their religion or race. Most of all, he desires equality under the law, which would grant him 1 pound of Antonio's flesh. Portia outwits him in the end, and inequality between Christians and Jews continues to subsist. In comparison to Shakespeare's other plays, The Merchant of Venice is one of the most controversial and highly debated amongst scholars. Though it is not obvious at first glance, the play has all the major elements of a Shakespeare comedy. The play is complex and often driven by mistaken identity. The idea of love and marriage is prevalent, and comedy is often used through language and wordplay, just like any other Shakespearean comedy. Of the Shakespeare plays that I have been exposed to, The Merchant of Venice was definitely one of my favorites. Though I disapproved of and was disappointed by the evident racism within the text, I enjoyed the variety of characters and the overall character development. The plot was exciting, intriguing, and has encouraged me to read more of Shakespeare's work in the future.